Welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Here's a question that nobody asks. Why are Democrats so angry? Just days from now, the Democratic Party is likely to retake the House of Representatives, and with it, meaningful political power. Nearly every poll predicts that will happen. We'll see. But Democrats ought to be cheerful and confident. Instead, they look like this.
You are supporting Nazis. Do you understand that?
Communism?
Yeah, I am.
Way more people do. Don't pour your coffee on me.
You, I will.
Than the Nazis?
What do you understand that fascism is here?
What is wrong
Y'all understand
with you?
that Nazis are
wrong
here?
with
I hope y'all realize that you are normalizing and enabling Nazis. And you can film me. I don't give a Do you really care?
Yeah.
Do you?
Here, have a jacket.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have a jacket. I give y'all.
The video you just saw was shot at Florida State University, but it could have been any college campus or anywhere else that progressives congregate. Effing Nazis. If the left had a slogan right now, that would be it. It's not an expression of political ideology. It's a scream of rage. It's not aimed at actual Nazis either. The group progressives are yelling at, the real enemy, is America's middle class, which they consider disgusting and immoral. Watch them explain.
You have racism and sexism driving this president's voting base, and we have to call that out. We have to address that.
We all know Make America Great Again is Make America White Again. And I think there's a bigger racist part of this country. Look, we're seeing it, we're living it. That's what Donald Trump is betting this election on.
He does have to take some responsibility for the type of racist, vile climate that we find ourselves in, which, Jake, is not new. This is, and you hear me say this all the time, this is in the DNA of America.
It's in the DNA of America, so the country that vanquished the Nazis is itself a Nazi country. That's their position. Is this something Democrats are saying in order to get out the vote next Tuesday? Probably not. It's hard to see how that would be an effective campaign tactic. They're saying it because they really mean it. The left is so angry they can no longer reason. Think back a few years ago to all the public figures that you once considered impressive. You might not have agreed with their politics, but there was no question they were serious people. David Gergen, Bill Kristol, James Clapper. Where are those people today? Well, they're foaming and ranting on Twitter like drunk children. How about John Brennan? Not so long ago, Brennan ran the CIA. That's a serious job. Here's what John Brennan sounds like now.
He is feeding and fueling hatred and animosity and misunderstandings among Americans. I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous because it is a betrayal of the nation. He is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Treasonous is defined as a betrayal of trust as well as aiding and abetting the enemy. And so that was the word that came to my mind.
Treason, aiding and abetting the enemy. People didn't used to say things like that in public, not for a long time. Now it's just another midday panel on MSNBC. Meanwhile, the rest of us are far less free to say what we think than we were just a few years ago. Our culture grows less open and more stifling by the day. Comedians no longer tell unapproved jokes. Scientists must abandon politically unpopular research. Ordinary people live in fear that a snitch from the sensitivity department down the hall will catch them in even the smallest violation of the liberal catechism, and they'll be fired and humiliated. The left is clamping down with maximum force on dissent. They demand nothing less than total obedience to their ever-expanding programs, whose outlines change and are confusing. Step out of line, though, and they will hurt you. So why is the left doing this? Well, because they're losing, and they know it. Take a step back for a minute. Is humorless political correctness the hallmark of self-confidence? No, it's just the opposite. Victorious armies don't behave like this. Crumbling regimes do. This is how you act when you feel your power slipping away. Democrats will likely win the election on Tuesday. They may win the next election, too. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because their program is over. It doesn't work. Voters are rejecting their ideas, and they're doing it around the world. In country after country, globalism and cultural liberalism are dying. If you watch CNN, you might conclude that America is somehow an international pariah for having a president who calls himself a nationalist. But if anything, Trump is just one among many. How many major democracies still have governments even close to as liberal as the American Democratic Party? Almost none of them. It's all moving in the opposite direction, and it's moving at high speed. Voters everywhere want their leaders to care about and protect them. The globalist left can never deliver on that, because they cannot acknowledge that the concerns of one country might outweigh those of any other country. It would be as if your parents loved the neighbor's kids as much as they loved you, maybe more. You would hate that. Voters hate that. That's why, as long as democracy is allowed, the globalist left is doomed. Progressives know that. They can smell it, and it terrifies them. So they crack down on the population. In the end, that will not work. You can't bully and harangue your own people forever. There is a limit, and we are reaching that limit. Keep this in mind as you watch election returns on Tuesday night. What we're seeing is not the ascendance of the modern Democratic platform, but its death throes. Chris Hahn is a progressive radio host and the former AHU Senator Chuck Schumer, and he joins us tonight. Chris, thanks a lot for coming on. So I don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. Willing to believe Democrats are going to win. Looks like they are. But I wonder what you make of what's happening in the rest of the world, all around the world, in almost every major democracy. Left-wing globalism is being rejected, sometimes severely. It just happened in Brazil, in the Philippines, happened in the UK, it happened in Italy. It's happening everywhere. Why do you think that's happening? Is it the racism of voters, or is there another reason? Seriously.
Look, I think that there is a contracting of the middle class around the world, and I think that's leading to unrest. And if we're not careful, that can happen here. I think the middle class has been shrinking for many, many years, and I think they see the opportunities for their children dwindling. And when that happens, you see them turn to extreme right-wing philosophies that blame others, which is what this president is trying to do every day by embracing nationalism. It blames others for the problems of a stagnant economy. So I think it's very important that we address the concerns of the middle class and we expand our economy, we grow our jobs, and we are inclusive. And I agree with you on one point you made in your monologue.
Yes, go ahead. Tell me what you agree.
I agree with you. I agree with you on the political correctness argument. I think that people on the left have to get away from that. I don't believe in offending people, but I think that there needs to be some latitude, especially for comedians and journalists and artists to express themselves. How
about normal people who may wear the wrong Halloween costume or say the wrong thing at a Christmas party or call it a Christmas party? Why does the left feel the need to punish them? No, I'm serious. I mean, we both agree that's bad, but why is it happening? If you're self-confident about your views, you don't act that way. Brittle people act that way, right?
There needs to be a distinction between people who are intentionally trying to offend and people who stumble into something that may be offensive and who can be corrected from that offense and then move on with their lives.
But what if they don't want to be? Wait. What if they don't want to be corrected? What if they have different views from you? Why do you feel the need to destroy them? Why does the left? I'm serious. Because if you really believe that your program is right, you convince other people. You don't get them fired and humiliated, which is what the left is doing on a large scale across our country.
I think convincing people that they may have a racist or sexist or offensive view is different from people who might say something that might be offensive to some people. You're never going to convince a racist or a sexist not to be a racist or a sexist, and those people do need to be banished and punished for it. But people who might make a statement off cuff, that's something you could correct.
Thank you for pulling off the mask and letting us see the authoritarian beneath, because who gets to decide what those terms mean?
You're projecting.
No, I'm not projecting in the slightest. I don't believe in punishing people because they disagree with me. I don't believe in calling them names or writing them off.
I don't either.
Because their views are different.
I don't believe in punishing people who disagree. I don't believe in punishing people who...
No, you just said you can't convince certain categories of people who I deem sexist or racist. You just have to crush them. And I guess I believe that each person is a citizen and capable of reason and can be persuaded. And so when do we give up on that? When do we say, I don't agree with you, I have to hurt you now? That is the position of the American left. And people don't like that, by the way. Are you aware of how little people like that?
No, look. Hey, look, I believe that you got to get everybody to come around with the idea that all men and all women are created equal in this country, to be treated with dignity and respect. And when there are people who are not willing to treat people with dignity and respect, they need to be dealt with in this society, because they are not. This is not what we have in a welcoming, open society. Look, people who are actively trying to hurt people based on their race, sex, religion, gender, or sexual identity.
I make the argument. Hold on, slow down. I make the argument almost every single night on this show for a society that judges people on the basis of how they behave and not on their immutable characteristics, like there's sex or race. I hear the very opposite rhetoric from the Democratic Party, but we're not going to make headway on that question.
Well, that's not true.
Let me ask you a deeper question, which is this. Can a Democrat, an elected Democrat, look into the camera and say, I side with American citizens over everyone else? American citizens' concerns are more important, are more important than the concerns of any other citizens around the world. And when their interests conflict with the interests of other citizens, I'm taking America's side. I don't think they can say that.
I think they can. I don't think they need to use the word nationalism, which now has a negative connotation. And just like in Mean Girls, trying to make fetch a thing, this guy is trying to make nationalism a thing. And white nationalists know what he means when he says nationalism, and that's all that really matters in America.
No, it's not actually what really matters in America. Most Americans are not bigots.
It's not even a dog whistle. It's a bullhorn when he says it.
Please stop with the stupid talking points. I'm an adult. Treat me as one.
It's true.
Most Americans are not bigots, as you know.
I
want you to speak slowly so I can understand what's wrong with the idea that you would put your country before other countries. If you're running the country, just like if you're running a family, you put your kids before your neighbor's kids. Why is nationalism as an idea, and don't hit me with the racist nonsense, I'm serious. What's wrong with that idea?
You know, get a thesaurus and call it patriotism. You don't have to use the word nationalism, which has been it's been co-opted by the far right extremists, and mostly for racial purposes. There are other words.
This is not MSNBC. I want to have a real conversation. What's wrong with the idea?
Sure.
Tell me why the idea is wrong. Why is it wrong to say, I am loyal to my nation that I lead? I'm elected to run this country.
Nothing wrong with that.
320 million people. Okay.
Nothing wrong
but
with
if I call it nationalist,
in fact,
then Don Lemon doesn't like it, and I have to not call it that. Is that what you're like? What is the argument you're making? I don't understand.
You know, it's not even about the people who don't like it. It's for the people who like it too much, who hear that and hear white nationalism.
Well,
the president needs to rise above that. He is the president of the United States, of all the United States. He's in a tough midterm election. It's going to be won on the margins, and he's trying to get some white racists out to vote. That's what he's trying to do.
Really
he wants white nationalists out there.
So he's saying
that's
why you won't run it for long.
No, we don't. No, I love this country. I love everybody.
They're all racist. All those white nationalists.
I believe in the better angels of America, but I don't think the president does, and that's the problem.
That's why you're attacking them. Chris, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you.
The creepy porn lawyer just released his first campaign ad in the hopes he will make himself the creepy porn president. We have the ad in the interest of news coverage. We're going to show it to you in a minute. Plus, some of the migrants making their way north from Central America to this country are suing the administration for violating their constitutional rights. What constitutional rights do they possess since they're not citizens or in this country? We'll find out. And then the president just responded to Alec Baldwin's arrest on his way to a rally. I'll tell you what he said in a minute. The president now at a rally in Indiana. We're monitoring it for news, and we'll bring you there if any occurs. Stay tuned. 127,000. The left has spent a couple of years now fantasizing about putting the president in jail. They may now have to settle for the man who plays the president on Saturday Night Live. That would be actor Alec Baldwin. He previously denounced Trump as, quote, insane. He himself was arrested today in New York City after he allegedly punched a man in the face so hard he had to be hospitalized. The fight apparently was over a parking spot. In other words, it was a fight over principle. Baldwin was charged with assault. He'll appear in court at a later date. The president was told about all of this earlier today and responded this way.
Mr. President, Alec Baldwin was just arrested for punching somebody out during a parking dispute. Any reaction to his arrest?
Who was arrested?
Alec Baldwin. He punched somebody out during a parking dispute.
I wish him luck.
That's it.
Magnanimous, if a little wry. Amazing. Well, members of the migrant caravan are not American. They're not even in the United States yet. According to the left, that makes no difference. To the left, there are two groups of people in the world, current American citizens and American citizens who simply haven't shown up yet. If you don't want them here immediately, then you are a monster. Watch.
The President of the United States has decided that a couple of thousand scared, sick, people fleeing violence are a bigger threat to the United States than ISIS.
I spent 2 days with a caravan, and I didn't see criminals or rapists or terrorists.
Donald Trump feeds off of this kind of ugliness and cruelty, and his supporters back him on it because they didn't get the wall, but now they might be able to stop an imaginary caravan.
People have gotten so much dumber in the last 2 years. It's unbelievable. And it shouldn't surprise us that in the face of programming like that, a dozen Honduran migrants have sued the administration for supposedly violating their constitutional rights, even though, once again, they have not yet reached the border yet. And they are, of course, not American citizens. Mike Donovan is CEO of Nexus Services, which is financing that lawsuit. He joins us tonight. Mike, thanks a lot for coming on. And for explaining to me...
Thanks for having me.
Well, of course. A sincere question, and I really am glad that you're here. Because it's hard to see what the standing is here. These are people who are not American citizens, are not on American soil, and some of them have declared intent to violate American law. How are their constitutional rights, the Constitution of a country they're not part of, how are those rights being violated exactly?
Well, so of the named plaintiffs in this lawsuit, each of them and each of the individuals in the purported class are individuals who want to seek asylum and do so legally. So I think that's an important part of this conversation. But Tucker, it's a good question. The asylum. So we have an immigration law. It's a series of immigration laws, and one of those elements is asylum. And those laws are specific to the individuals in this caravan who are coming to claim asylum. That in alone, it may not be enough, but the President of the United States has taken to making this caravan a symbol of an invasion of our country. And he has taken a great deal of time to defame the individuals who are traveling, fleeing bloodshed in their home countries, trying to find a place where they can live and support their families.
Okay, I get it, but hold on. What does that have to, and I understand you don't like that and you're on their side, you don't like Trump, fine. But what is that? How does that mean that they have a constitutional right that is being violated? What is that right? Where in the Constitution does it reside? As just a normal American, I'm confused. Can you help me?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a right to due process. These individuals are coming to the country. They have, in one way or another, stated their intent to come to the country, and the chief executive of this country has taken aim and attacked them. So what I'm saying is that their standing is very simple. They're asylum seekers. They want clarification. I think that we should respect these migrants for taking
maybe
the
we
time
should.
to seek
Hold on, wait,
clarification.
stop. This is a legal question. So I get it. We should respect them. You're on the side of the migrants. That's your right. I just want to know where my responsibility begins. As an American citizen, you're saying they have a constitutional right to due process, but they're not Americans and they're not on U.S. soil. They're hundreds of miles from the United States. They're not here. So in what sense are they covered by our due process protect? Like, this is insane, and you know it's insane. I just want you to admit that it's insane.
No, it's not insane, Tucker. They are claiming rights under the asylum provisions of our statutes that affords them due process rights under that law. We have due process under the law. This is a law that is specifically directed to them. So, of course, they have due process rights.
No, they do. Let me just correct you as a non-lawyer. They do not possess those rights if they're in another country and not U.S. citizens. So if they possess those rights, then, I don't know, the entire country of Nigeria, or pick a country that's poorer than the United States, can say, we want to come there. President says you can't come, and all of a sudden 800 million people sue you for violating their constitutional rights in the country they've never been to.
With all due respect, Tucker, you know that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about individual migrants who are coming together, who are on their way to the border to exercise their rights under U.S. law.
No, but
due process rights
but
under
it's
that
not.
law.
It's not different.
But
hold on, because it's a few.
It is different.
What's the principle? In what sense is it different? What's the principle? If you are a foreigner residing in a foreign country, okay. Well, I don't know if they're en route or not.
If the entire nation of Nigeria were en route to the United States, perhaps it would be apples to apples. But that's what you said. It's not correct. These are individuals coming to this country to seek asylum.
Okay, but first of all, you don't know that. We don't know what their intent is.
Sure, hundreds
of. No, actually, you don't. They're hundreds of miles away, and asylum claims have to be made on U.S. soil, either in an embassy, a consulate, or at our border. Okay, that's the law. Speaking as someone who purportedly defends the law, you know that. I know. So you can't actually claim that you're covered by the U.S. Constitution, again, if you're not on U.S. soil and you're not a U.S. citizen. Because if you could,
unfortunately,
that is the
argument,
law.
but Tucker,
it's not an argument; it's a fact.
the courts don't agree with you. There's a court case in the D.C. Circuit that is in the matter of R.L. Johnson, where Judge Boasberg said that the administration can't use deterrence to curb asylum seekers who are coming to this country. I'm afraid that this is an area of law that's already been litigated. I'm not concerned about standing here.
You are incorrect. You're factually incorrect.
I'm not.
The United States, hold on. The United States Supreme Court has never said that due process protection applies to non-citizens on foreign soil. That has never happened, and you know it.
The District of Columbia federal courts have, and that's where this case is.
So are you
maybe one day we'll get to the Supreme Court. But I think it's important.
But look, here's what's important. Hold on. Here's what's important is that the rest of us know what the precedent is. And so is, by this standard, anyone in any country who says he's on his way to the United States and is walking in our direction can sue the United States for saying we don't want you? Like, you really want to set that precedent, or you don't care?
If the president, do I want to set the precedent, Tucker? If the president of the United States engages in abusive, violent rhetoric toward a group of people, I want to set the precedent that that's not okay. It's with all due respect. No,
you know what? You're messing with our legal system
because I'm calling the president. This president is behaving badly, and you
don't like the president.
And you should condemn it too. It's not a matter of not liking the president. I don't like
every one of these people, please.
I don't like the president threatening to shoot children with rocks. Do you honestly believe that's okay?
I'm not going to give you more airtime to do a CNN. Do I think it's okay? I want to talk about adult things like, what does the Constitution guarantee foreigners? Is it okay that he's mean? Okay. Thank you. In a final bid for votes, endangered Democratic senators are running away from their own party. Is that working? Plus, the president rallying in Indiana tonight. We're watching that event for any news that might break, and we will bring it to you if it does. Stay tuned.
The hell out of our country. We will lift millions of our citizens from welfare to work, dependence to independence, and poverty to...
The midterm elections fewer than 100 hours from now. In some states, embattled Democrats are trying to win by attacking their own party. That's clever. In some races, they're admitting the Democrats grossly mishandled the Kavanaugh hearings. In others, they're simply attacking the radical left outright. Lisa Booth rejoins us to continue our look at this fall's candidates and what they are saying. Lisa Booth, great to see you. So I have kind of mixed feelings about this. I agree with the candidates who are attacking the Democratic Party as extreme because it is. But first, who are they? And second, will it work?
Well, it is pretty interesting. It's working in the sense that these races are really tight in states that President Trump won by double digits. But it's certainly an interesting tactic because it's not just Republicans throwing the Democrat Party under the bus this cycle. It's also Democrats. I want you to listen to an ad from Claire McCaskill.
And Claire's not afraid to stand up against her own party.
Yep, and Claire's not one of those crazy Democrats. She works right in the middle and finds compromise.
Right, so Claire McCaskill has been running this ad saying she's not one of these crazy Democrats, but it turns out, Tucker, that she's actually voted with two of those crazy Democrats, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, 60% of the time. She's not the only one doing this. Joe Donnelly in Indiana has also been saying that he's not one of those socialist Democrats, one of those radical Democrats that want government-run health care or want to abolish ICE. You've also got John Tester in Montana, who said that the Democrat Party botched the Kavanaugh Supreme Court confirmations, which is something that we all know. But apparently he just showed up to the party on that. So this has kind of been something interesting to see with the Democrats. And there's also this other interesting story, Tucker, about Joe Donnelly. So remember last night when we had talked about North Dakota and how the Democrat Party of North Dakota, how they're trying to discourage hunters from voting this election cycle. Well, Joe Donnelly and the Democrat Party of Indiana are doing something similar in the sense that they're actually trying to boost the prospects of the Libertarian candidate in the race. They've been running Facebook ads saying that she is the true conservative in the race against Mike Braun. They're trying to split that ticket between the Libertarian and Republican Mike Braun to try to help Joe Donnelly in the race. They actually also sent out a mailer last week basically doing the same thing, a side-by-side comparison of the Libertarian candidate and Mike Braun. But the problem is this is all coming from the Democrat Party of Indiana. So it's very disingenuous, very dirty trick. So voters there should be on the lookout. And that's not the only thing that's really raising eyebrows lately. There's also this, if that's surprising, Tucker, I'm sure.
No, it's not. I've always thought that the majority of libertarian candidates were funded by Democrats. I think this
and now you know. If you don't know, now you know, right? So that's how that works. All right, well, there's also this guy, Sean Casten, who's running for Congress in Illinois' 6th congressional district. That is a seat currently held by Republican Peter Roscom. Well, he's raising some eyebrows for this comment. Take a listen.
I don't mean to sound overly, hyperbolic on this. Trump and Osama bin Laden have a tremendous amount in common.
You have one political party in the country, which shall remain nameless, that has a vested interest in uneducated voters.
Sure. Right.
I mean, Fox News exists to make people stupid.
Right. So I don't like those comments because I work at Fox News. But he's also essentially saying the Republican Party are a bunch of idiots. And this is a R+2 district, a Republican-leaning district. And he is saying the voters there are stupid. And you also heard that comparison of President Trump to Osama bin Laden. That was back in February. Those comments got a lot of flack. And he also, not too long ago, said that the leader that inspires him the most is the sex columnist Dan Savage, who has said that he wishes all Republicans were effing dead. So clearly a class act, right?
This is moving in an extreme direction. No, that's right.
Very much so, Tucker.
Thank you for that.
Thank
Great
you.
To see you. Well, as the left loses its grip on power, they become more and more desperate to silence dissenting voices. And they're doing it. They're trying to silence PragerU. Part 2 of our free speech discussion with Dennis Prager and Adam Carolla follows this break. Stay tuned.
And I make a joke. He said, why don't you shove a Ryobi drill up your And I tweet right back, why Ryobi?
Yeah, why not DeWalt?
Why not? Why? And then I did, but that one was...
Milwaukee.
There's a whole...
He handled whole hog with a half-inch
Makita, go with the Makita.
Well,
but the guy wrote back,
Milwaukee
he goes...
makes a better plumber's
Yes,
drill.
but the guy wrote back, he says, sorry, I was having a tough day, I probably shouldn't have said that. So at least I had an interplay. Sure. What did that come out of? Out of nowhere, this meanness.
That was a clip from Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager's upcoming new movie. It's called No Safe Spaces. Comedy used to be the realm of liberals in America, but that has changed recently. Turn on any late-night show. Humor is gone. It's dead. It's been replaced by suffocating propaganda and mindless, repetitive political correctness. Is that permanent? Can it be fixed? Can the country regain its sense of humor, its sense of art, its sense of dignity, really, and perspective? We had that conversation in part 2 of our interview with Carolla and Prager. Here's part of what they said.
What if everyone simultaneously stopped apologizing, stopped backpedaling, stopped walking back tweets when they were quoting Winston Churchill, and then they had to apologize after quoting Winston Churchill or whomever or whatever? What if it all stopped on Monday? There'd be no more business on Tuesday for the people who are trying to shut you down. If we did it and we provided a uniform front, if we all just sort of said, no, I'm not going to apologize, it was a joke, or you took it the wrong way, or I meant it, live with it, this would end immediately.
Let's do that. Can you think, since you guys have just spent the last more than a year working on this film about this topic, can you think of anyone who's done that, who is other than you all, who's just drawn the line in normal life, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for what I did?
Donald Trump.
Good point.
And that's what drives them crazy. He just marches on, does his thing. Overwhelmingly, it has been good for the United States and the world. He has said some ridiculous things, even some bad things, fully acknowledged. Nevertheless, he does not apologize to the left. He is the ultimate nemesis of the left because he doesn't care what they say. And I have said often, I'm a religious guy, and I have said, there is more fear of the left in America than fear of God. There's more fear of the New York Times editorial page than fear of God. And even if you're an atheist, you can acknowledge the truth of that. And that, when you bust that fear, it's over. They wish that the fear will work. That's why they gather around your table and scream at you, because the previous tactic didn't work, so they keep upping it. But at a given point, it won't work, and that's the hope that the American people understand. There's a vicious cycle taking place on the part not of liberals, but of leftists. In our film, Alan Dershowitz says, as a liberal, as a Democrat, as an American, as a Jew, I far more fear the left than the right.
Yeah, I think most people do. So how long does this last?
Well, I think there's also a quick addendum here, like a simple thing we could do. I think we're all guilty of doing it. I watch your show, I listen to your show religiously, even though I'm an atheist, and you guys do it, and I don't think it's unconscious, and we all do it, where you go, look, here are my thoughts on immigration, and then you stop and you go, Hispanics are great people. I work with many Hispanic people. I have no ill will in my heart toward Hispanic. And then you go ahead and talk about securing the border. Sure. And then you do this thing where you go, or it's a feminine issue. I'm married. I have daughters. I love them dearly. I don't abuse my wife ritualistically. Now, why do we have to preface everything with explaining, look, I'm not an arsonist, I'm not a pedophile, here are my views. Like, I'm not a racist. This notion, of course you're not a racist, you're not a racist. I'm not a racist in theory. I make a few off-color jokes. My point is we shouldn't have to preface every talking point with, I'm not misogynistic, I'm not xenophobic, I'm not homophobic, I'm not racist. We're not. This is insane that they've talked us into having to preface every talking point with, I have nothing against homosexuals. Many of my best friends are gay. Dennis is a godfather to a homosexual couple. Now, that being said, let me give you my thoughts on gay marriage. This notion that they've talked good family people who've never brought any harm to any group, regardless of sexual proclivities or gender, age, or race. We've never done anything. Why do we have to start every rebuttal to every argument with, look, I'm not homophobic, and I'm not a racist, and I'm not a, and then you explain you have a wife, and she, honey, are you here, by the way? This is good stuff. Anyway, you're missing a lot of good stuff. The point is, let's stop doing that.
Done.
Go right into your talking point.
I'm never doing that again.
Go right into your talking point. You're not homophobic, and you're not racist, and you're not xenophobic.
I'm not, actually.
You're not.
Right. No,
so
you're right.
Why do we have to prove that to Nutjob, who's arguing with you and who's got you on your heels because you have to make sure that they know you're not a racist at every turn?
You just changed my show. From here on, I will not. Gentlemen, thank you. I can't wait for the movie. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Tucker.
Well, the creepy porn lawyer has just revealed his first political ad. How would you describe it? Creepy. We'll show it to you next. Well, the presidential campaign that nobody outside the cable news community is actually asking for has taken a step closer to reality tonight. The Creepy Porn Lawyer's 2020 campaign has produced its first political ad. It will air soon on Facebook and Twitter. We're going to show it to you. We want to preface that with a warning. It's creepy.
We the people
are mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore.
And we're not going to take it anymore.
Enough with the lies.
Enough with the cover-ups.
Enough with the bigotry. Enough with the misogyny.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Our Constitution says we the people, not me the president. Stand up. Join the Fight Club. Use your vote as your voice on November 6th.
Every cliche ever added to a political commercial, all in one. Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent, NRA TV contributor, also the author of the great book Spygate, The Attempted Sabotage of Donald J. Trump. Dan Bongino joins us tonight. So, Dan, it looks like this is what we've been, and I'll just concede, we've made fun of this for a long time, and then all of a sudden there's a political ad, and you've got to think, well, maybe this is going to happen.
Yeah. Tucker, I'm sorry, I usually don't crack up on TV like this. I've been doing this a little while now. I'm just wondering how many takes it took. Let me just put disclosure. I've actually filmed political ads. I ran for office in the past. I will not do it again. But I know how this works. And there's usually multiple takes, you know. Say fight back. No, say it with passion, fight back. Say it with a squint in your eye, fight back. I'm just wondering how many takes it took Avenatti at the end to be that creepy. creepy? Was it the 25th take where they, no, this is really creepy now. Let's put this one up. When he says, it's we the people, not me the president. Well, it's we the people, not me the creepy porn lawyer either. But that is the creepiest look ever. That may be the first political ad that actually raises negative money. In other words, people that donated see the ad and then ask for their money back. That is the worst ad I have ever seen.
And I don't think Democrats like it. So today, apparently, Beto, or is it Beto, or the guy, Robert O'Rourke, who's running in Texas against Cruz, fake names, I can never remember how to pronounce them. He attacked creepy porn lawyer as not representative of the Democratic Party. Do you think that's fair?
I mean, he's challenging, the creepy porn lawyer is challenging Don Jr. to mixed martial arts matches. Tucker, I don't know. Listen, I'm not a fan of Robert Francis O'Rourke. I'm a Ted Cruz supporter. But listen, he's right on this one. I mean, is this really the guy you want, charging ahead on the battlefield as like the flag bearer of the Democrat Party, challenging Don Jr. to MMA matches, representing people in porn cases against the president, throwing out allegations that have been widely debunked by media people? I mean, this is the future. And the fact that he's even showing up in these states and gathering crowds, Tucker, doesn't really speak well to the Democrat Party right now. No. If this is your bench, you better work on that farm system, man, because you guys are in a lot of trouble.
You know what? I agree. I'm with Beto O'Rourke on that as well. Dan Bongino, great to see you, as always. Thank you.
You too, brother. Take care.
Well, there's one thing the left stands for. It's against the patriarchy and objectifying people. They always tell us that. But apparently some progressives did not get the memo. The so-called grab 'em by the ballot campaign is asking women to pose naked to promote Democratic candidates because nothing says we're fighting objectification than women taking naked pictures of themselves. Perhaps the intent is to make conservatives so disgusted they give up on democracy entirely and opt out of the system. We're not exactly sure. That's why we called Allie Beth Stuckey and asked her to weigh in. She is, of course, a famous podcast host. Allie, thanks a lot for coming on. So if you're against objectifying women, is this self-objectification or is it on a higher political plane that those standards don't apply to?
I don't know. What I do know is that if this is what fighting the patriarchy looks like in 2018, then I don't know. Maybe third wave feminism is the best thing that have ever happened for men. This has got to be the biggest trick that has ever been played on feminists, that if you strip naked and you pose for pictures, then you're somehow advancing the female cause. I'm old enough to remember when we considered porn, and in this case, I guess soft porn, objectifying for women, but no, that's not true anymore. Now it's actually good for the cause.
So you sign up with Betty Friedan and you wind up at the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, basically. I mean, this is kind of the trajectory of modern feminism. I mean, look, I'm not sure what I think of it exactly, but go ahead.
This is just another example of progressives being regressive. They tell us all the time they're for female empowerment, that we have fought so hard for women to be taken seriously, and that's true. We have. Women have fought hard for that. We do want to be taken seriously. We do want to be treated as equals. But I don't know. In my opinion, this kind of takes us a few steps back.
Yeah. Well, some of us have always taken women seriously because we live with them. And you definitely take them seriously when you love them, of course. But I don't understand. So this is the party that's for the burqa, but also for this. So I'm starting to think that maybe there aren't any organizing principles other than rage, maybe.
No, rage and attention, whatever they can do to make sure that people are looking at them, that they're, outraged, like you said, disgusted, whatever it takes to get them out there, then I guess that's what they have to do. And in this case, it was posing naked.
And attention. There is a kind of desperate look at me quality to this, isn't there?
Yes, of course, but they're against objectification. Women are not pieces of meat, but they will stand there like pieces of meat to get you to vote the way that they want you to vote. It's all very confusing.
Such a nice summation. Thank you so much for that.
Exactly.
I knew
Thank you.
Bring it in. Thank you. We're going to close this whole week by showing you a remarkable cartoon, not published in a fringe publication, but in this morning's New York Times, and it tells you everything about how they see the country and how they see you. It's unbelievable, really. We'll be right back. Well, we want to bring this week to a close with something pretty remarkable. It's an editorial cartoon. Someone sent it to me today, and I didn't believe it. I assumed it must have been an elaborate parody designed to send up the twisted priorities of the American left, but it turns out it's entirely real, and it ran in the New York Times. You're looking at it on the screen. The cartoon, as you can see, shows President Trump pointing a line of U.S. soldiers toward the Mexican border. One soldier says this, quote, "I enlisted to fight in the Middle East, not the midterms," unquote. In other words, according to the New York Times, when you sign up for the military, it's not to protect your own country or imminent threats to its borders. It's to ship off to a country you know nothing about, that has no conceivable connection to the United States or its vital interests, and kill people for reasons no one explains to you, or, as likely, be killed by them. That's the purpose of the U.S. military. By the way, that tracks almost precisely with the views of our foreign policy establishment in Washington, which is why our foreign policy has made this country weaker and poorer and the world more chaotic. But the New York Times sees nothing wrong with any of that. And in fact, if you dissent, then you get an editorial cartoon drawn attacking you. Pretty unbelievable. Says it all. Well, that's it for us tonight and for this week. We'll, of course, be back at 8 p.m. on Monday. We are the show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. The midterm elections are next Tuesday. We're not going to lie. We have no idea what's going to happen, but we're going to bring you all the information we can about them so you can cast an informed vote. See you then.